Welcome back to another day here on the Winter's Lorcana channel. Today we are playing a green-blue Mufasa came back deck. I am loving the jank. That's what this deck is. It is 100% jank, so be prepared for that. This is the sort of deck that once your opponent knows what it is that you're doing, you likely won't win any more games against them because it's pretty easy to shut down when you know what it is that you're fighting against. But before we dive into the deck, I just want to give a shout out for the Patreon linked in the description down below. Did you guys know that I've been uploading videos to Patreon? Yeah, there's videos that you guys haven't seen if you're not a Patreon member. For the $1 tier, that's it, literally the lowest tier, there's other videos that I've been uploading. So if you are wanting more deck techs, more videos, more games of other decks, that's the place to be. That's where I'm doing it. It is linked in the description down below. Also, there's the raffle at the $25 tier. This month, I'm going to be giving away 3 booster boxes of the Japanese The First Chapter. They're going to go out to 2 lucky winners. The grand prize winner is going to get 2 boxes of the Japanese First Chapter. So if you want to be a part of that, that's linked in the description down below. Now, looking at Mufasa came back, this deck wants to do one thing. It wants to play Mufasa, ruler of Pride Rock.
The sun will set on my time here, and will rise with you as the new king.
This character, Quest for 4, is a 4/9, and when you play this character, exert all cards in your inkwell, then return 2 cards at random from your inkwell to your hand. Whenever this character quests, ready all cards in your inkwell. We're going to abuse the crap out of that second ability with cards like You Came Back.
You came back.
Nobody gets left behind.
This card just says, ready chosen character. So what you get to do is you quest with Mufasa, ready all of your ink, ready Mufasa, spend all of your ink doing stuff, quest with Mufasa again, readies all your ink, play another You Came Back, or play Do It Again to get You Came Back, and ready Mufasa. Then he quests again, readies all your ink. So we can literally go from 0 to 20 lore in a single turn if the stars line up. Now, as I was saying, once your opponent knows what you're trying to do, it's hard to do. They will stop you, especially if they're playing Steel, and especially if they're playing Pete, because it's very easy to shut down our action-based plans here. Now, our ways of trying to get around that are Goofy, Expert Shipwright, and Alice, Savvy Sailor.
I've been shrunk, stretched, scratched, and stuffed into a teapot.
These 2 cards both have a similar ability that when they quest, they give another character ward, and that's what we care about because we play Mufasa and then he has to survive a turn, and the easiest way to make him survive is to just give him ward. So we're going to set up an Alice and or a Goofy, and then when we play Mufasa, we are 100% questing with one of the 2 that we have, giving Mufasa ward and pretty much ensuring that he will survive until the next turn. The only thing that's going to get through that is going to be a really well-played Lady Tremaine or just a timely Be Prepared. But with all the ramp in the deck, they shouldn't be up to those numbers by the time we're playing Mufasa, so we should be able to get under the radar. Now, before we jump into the game, I do want to say, having played this a handful of times, there are changes I would make. I would drop the entire Diablo package. There's enough card draw in the deck that they were very pointless, and you'll notice we have 20 uninkables in the deck. So 4 Diablos gone brings us down to 16, which makes me feel comfortable getting rid of the hidden ink caster, which will bring us down to 13 uninkables. And in that case, you just don't need to worry about the hidden inkcaster being in the deck. So I'd replace them with removal. It's the one thing the deck struggles with. Your opponent just starts being aggro because you don't give them anything to deal with, and by the time you're ready to get Mufasa going, they may have just quested their way right into victory anyway. So we'd add removal to this deck. Things like You're Welcome, maybe we don't talk about Bruno's, something to just get their characters off the board. That's all we care about, just getting them off the board, whether that's banishing or bouncing, until we can get Mufasa down. Now, let's jump in and see if we can't win a few. All right, game number 1. I'm actually on the left-hand side for game 1. We're playing against Braedon in this matchup, and we are playing a very janky deck. So you're going to see me do a lot of almost nothing. This deck spins its wheels a lot until it's time to just win the game. That's kind of what we're going to do here. The tricky bit is once your opponent kind of catches on that there's not a whole lot you are going to do to like stop them, or you're not giving them a lot to do to interact with, they start questing. So keep an eye out for that. It can become problematic. But we're starting off strong here. 2 popsicles. So we're just exchanging cards for more cards. I'm weighing the pros and cons of, do I go into Fishbone and start ramping for Mufasa, or do I set up Diablo? Because they're both going to prioritize this turn 3 play. And then of course we draw Tipo, and then I think drawing Tipo is what sealed the deal for me, that we are going to be playing Fishbone, because I think I'm going to have just enough ramp between the Fishbone and potentially Tipo here to get us to 8 exceptionally quick, which is what we really want. We would have loved to see Tipo on turn 2, ideally, or even a sail, but, you know, sometimes you just don't get it. But here we are going to be playing against Purple Steel, and right away I'm seeing some issues. Multiple characters who are requesting for 2. This version of this deck, and as I said in the intro, the changes I would make, this version struggles with slowing down the opponent, and that can be kind of problematic. So now that I've already committed to Fishbone, we're gonna need to get there quick. I need to draw more cards. As it turns out, I can quest, or I could play Tipo and ink an additional time, but I kind of want to keep the cards in my hand, and I'm gonna be Fishboning. So yeah, Flaversham was kind of forced in this instance, but things are working out for us. Check this out. There he is. Tipo anyway. Love that for me. Now, the reason why I'm on the left-hand side, we were sitting in a different spot in the card shop, which dictated that the camera be in a different position than it normally is. And I wanted to make sure that the cards are rotated, so when they turn, they're right side up on camera. Turns out, definitely overthought it there. I could just manipulate it here in the editing. So I could have been on the left hand, or the right hand side, but we turned our cards this way. So that's why I'm on the left this time. Now, we are a little concerned. He now has 3 characters that quest for 2. And it's definitely turning into a race. Next turn, though, I can slam down Mufasa. So as long as he can't win on his next turn, I think we got this. Funny enough, we're not even on the board yet, and I think we got this. How crazy is that? So we're going to start with Flaversham. I want to have as many options in my hand before we unleash the Mufasa. Speaking of which, Mufasa coming on down.
The sun will set on my time here, and will rise with you as the new king.
Brand new animation. I hope you guys like that one. It's a little slower. I think I should have sped up the transition, but too little too late. We're going to see that probably a few more times in today's video. So we'll get to appreciate it, maybe do some tweaks. Now, Mufasa does exert all of our ink when we play him. It did cost all of our ink this time around, so it didn't really matter. But he also randomly returns 2 cards from our inkwell to our hand. So the way I do this is I typically just do a quick shuffle on my ink, and then I let my opponent just randomly pick 2 cards. That feels like the most random it could be, you know, for what it is. It's not like the sleeves are marked or anything, so, you know, that's not a big deal. And another popsicle down. Now, this is the only time where it's scary. I didn't have an Alice, I didn't have a Goofy. Mufasa is vulnerable to removal. Now, we are relying on the fact that he has just a gigantic butt. So he will be difficult for Braedon to exert with, say, an Elsa and take down. So I think we're going to be fine. He would technically have enough if he wanted to trade every single character with an Elsa to take down the Mufasa. So it is technically possible for him to have taken it down here. And if that's the case, he's trading his entire board. I think we probably would have been fine. But here's where the real magic is. Mufasa survives. And this is the turn. If we don't make it happen now, it probably doesn't happen. Especially considering Braedon's at 13. So we're going to start by questing with both of our characters. Flaversham's going to trigger. I'm going to draw 2 cards here. Like I said, we need to find all of the You Came Backs and or Do It Agains. We need at least one You Came Back for the do it agains to even be relevant. But here we are. I do have a You Came Back in my hand, so we're gonna ink here. We're gonna ink again with the fishbone at some point. Here it goes. And the reason why we're doing that is because Mufasa is going to ready our ink, and so maximizing the amount of ink we have is also very helpful. The only downside is if you're going to ink things that don't help you win the game this turn. Goofy doesn't help us win the game this turn. He doesn't do anything towards that goal because you can kind of just run out of gas, and if you run out of gas, you lose the game. That's it. You just flat out lose the game. So here we go. Visions finds me. I got another Flaversham, drawing even more cards. So at this point, I think I have most of my You Came Backs and quite a few Do It Agains. So we're ready to just rock and roll here. I'm just trying to be as ink efficient as possible. And ultimately, I don't even think I ink with my sail. Like I can, and I just don't. I just don't need to at this point. Here we go. We're going to be questing with Mufasa. We're going to gain the 4, jumping up to 7. It's now going to ready all of our ink. This is where it's not an infinite loop, but it is quite a lengthy loop, and it's lengthy enough to win the game, usually even from 0.
You came back.
Nobody gets left behind.
Yeah, You Came Back. There it is. Hopefully you guys like that new animation as well. That one was a little tricky, but I got it to work in a smashing way. Love that. But I like to pop off the You Came Back first and ready Mufasa. The last thing I want to do is accidentally spend too much ink on something and not be able to ready Mufasa. So it's always the first thing I do is find the way to ready Mufasa. That way there can be no accidents. Finding another Flaversham, drawing even more cards. The Aurelian Gyrosphere is in the deck for early questers like Tipo and Hiram to potentially, get things we don't want to see off the top of our deck and straight to the bottom. I don't know if I like the card necessarily, but there's not a lot of really great items, and our deck really needs the items. So it's decent, but I would like something a little better. Speaking of which,
You came back.
Nobody gets left behind.
it doesn't get much better than You Came Back, getting Mufasa all readied again. We're going to do it again, get You Came back into my hand. Now we quest with Mufasa, jumping up to 15, readying all of our ink, and at this point, I just have everything I need.
You came back.
Nobody gets left behind.
There it is. Another You Came Back, readying Mufasa. This is going to be the most obnoxious as far as animations go. Do it again, get the You Came Back, quest again, go to 19, ready all of my ink, and
You came back.
Nobody gets left behind.
yeah, just another one, readied again, and do it again, get it back, just to show we have it, and then quest for victory, but also
Mufasa loop, I can do it.
jumping into game 2. This time we're going against SouthPaw. And look at me, I'm back on the right hand side where I belong. This is where the camera was good. The reason why we ended up moving seats was because we changed the day that we play at this card shop, and it's at an earlier time. Well, it turns out at an earlier time, the sun just beams so harshly through the window, I was concerned about glare on the cards. We might see that at some point in the game. There might be a little bit of glare. So, that's because, the sun exists. So already we're in a Diablo mirror match. I did see that SouthPaw has Pegasus and Shift Pegasus in his hand, and I'm planning on playing my Diablo. So this turn 2, if he doesn't play Little Pegasus, I'm feeling great, but he does play Little Pegasus, and now I'm thinking, yeah, he's 100% going to shift the big Pegasus out. So there is a critical moment here where I'm thinking to myself, what am I going to do about big Pegasus? Nothing, actually. I don't have removal in the deck, not in this version. Again, refer to the intro if you want to hear about the changes I would make to this deck. So I'm going to get the Hidden Inkcaster, draw another card. I'm establishing items, but trying to figure out what my answer is going to be, and I just realized there isn't one. So I'm going to shift Diablo. I'm going to quest, get on the board early, And I'm effectively going to trade this Diablo for two things. The card draw, and I'm forcing SouthPaw to effectively have to play Shift Pegasus and spend the turn challenging instead of questing with it. So I'm kind of controlling his turn in a sense because my Diablo doesn't do anything else. If he didn't do that, he's going to let me draw even more cards, and that's very dangerous for him. In any deck that runs Diablo, it's dangerous to let Diablo run away with the game. So forcing his hand, drawing the card. I don't feel great about it, but it felt like the best option in that particular situation because I know I don't have a way to actually deal with the Pegasus apart from multiple Diablos. So developing my items, doing very well. I would love to see a Flaversham sometime soon to take advantage of all these items, but we will see. In the meantime, I like to take note of the cards my opponent inks. You should do this common practice anyway, but like an Elsa being gone is interesting. So that's one less card for me to worry about if I have Mufasa later, right? If I don't have an Alice or a Goofy to protect it. But I do see him playing the goat. I'm aware that he could have a snake or a fox in his hand. And in this case, now that I'm reviewing the footage, he has both of them. I didn't actually know that in the game, obviously, but I am thinking that those are definitely a potential. So this goat could be an issue. Again, my deck kind of comes down to race mode. I'm racing to just get to my ink and have the Mufasa. If I don't have Mufasa, it doesn't matter how much I ramp. So it's a little bit of a tricky situation. Mufasa is this kind of card you don't really want to see in your opening hand, but in this particular list, if he's in your opening hand, you almost always keep him because you risk not finding him later in the game, and he's the only way we win. This deck, like I said, it's janky. It wins really quick and really effectively, but it definitely has some major flaws, and if you don't play your deck to avoid those flaws, you will lose most of your games. So that's what we're doing. We're trying to avoid running into any of those pitfalls. Now here we go. SouthPaw is already questing up to 10, so it's looking a little problematic for me. I am able to play Mufasa potentially on the next turn. I'm weighing my options if I want to play Mufasa or develop a little bit before I played Mufasa. A part of that calculation is counting your opponent's lore and trying to determine if you think they can get to 20 or not. If they can't, you usually have that extra turn. Now here we saw the bounce, so I know that goat's probably still going to be an issue. And so I got to calculate for that. So I'm looking at his board here, doing some math, plays the Flaversham, and I'm also going to draw some cards, which is fantastic for me. I get to ink. I still have the Fishbone ink, so that's still a thing. But I'm going to play Alice because I'm looking.
I've been shrunk, stretched, scratched, and stuffed into a teapot.
Because I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, I think we can get there without him hitting 20 and have Alice protection for Mufasa. But also, it's possible that we are just in trouble here because he can quest for 5 and then we play Mufasa and then he quests for victory. That's an issue. Starting to feel the pressure. I don't think we're going to have a way out of this. But then this happens. He only quests for 3. So all of a sudden, I have a chance. I think if he had quested with one of his other characters, it's just lights out. And there's nothing we could have done to stop him. But this, only questing for 3, I think gives us some hope. It does have a downside though. Obviously I want to draw as many cards as I can, so Flaversham is the one here who has to be questing, breaking an item and drawing some cards, because we just have to have enough of our You Came Backs or Do It Agains with Mufasa, or having Mufasa doesn't mean very much. So it puts me in a position where Alice actually has to challenge. He's at 14 and currently has 6 on board, and he just inked the goat. So unless he's got a white flower or another goat in his hand, I have to attack, get rid of the Diablo, and all of a sudden he's only worth 5 lore on board now.
The sun will set on my time here, and will rise with you as the new king.
Again, we could just run into him having another goat or a white flower, but we're going to shuffle up the ink, let SouthPaw pick our 2 cards, and then re-exert everything because all of the ink has to be exerted thanks to Mufasa's ability. But we have Mufasa in play, and on board, he does not have victory. So there's a chance here that I could run away with this game. And that's what we're playing for. Playing for our outs, drawing more cards, sail the Azurite Sea here. Doesn't win us the game, but it could draw us the cards that we need. So that's what we're doing. We're drawing cards, looking for the combo pieces for Mufasa. We officially have Mufasa set up, and SouthPaw can't quest for victory. As far as I know, right? He could always have that goat. So he's starting with the Chernobog's followers, exchanging it for a card. We get lucky. I see the look on his face and I know he didn't draw it. So now the only thing I'm worried about is there a world where he plays an Elsa, exerts Mufasa because we didn't get to protect it with Ward in our Alice, and does he challenge the Mufasa? Because Mufasa is the only way that we win this game. Now, we get, I don't know if I would say lucky, but lucky enough that he doesn't play Elsa. Mufasa survives. I am a little bummed that Alice disappeared. There is another cheeky little thing. If your Alice survives, then all of a sudden Mufasa quests for 5. And when you ready him, he's still questing for 5. So it goes from needing to quest like 4, 5, 6 times, I want to say. Just mathing off the top of my head. No, it's 5 times. He doesn't have to quest 5 times. With an Alice, he can quest 4 times. It's 1 less quest. It's 1 less combo piece we need. But gets rid of Alice, so it's not going to happen. But here it is. This is the turn. I'm getting as much ink as I can. Again, only ink the things that do not help you win on this turn. The characters don't help you win unless they have enter the battlefield triggers like the Flaversham here. It's going to draw me cards. That's what we're looking for. We need the combo pieces. Otherwise, everything else is pretty much fair game to ink. There it is. Visions is a hugely powerful card for us. We get to dig so deep to find one of the cards we need. Do It Again is a great card to find. It does buy me another You Came Back. Yes, provided we have a You Came Back. So, it's not looking terrible. I am running into a bit of an issue here. I'm doing the math in my head, and I think we're going to be 1, possibly 2 quests short. I need to find the answer. I need to find another You Came Back or another Do It Again. So we're going to do our first quest here. Get all of our ink back. This is the moment we're pulling the trigger. We're going to see how far we can get. I can't see my hand, but I believe I'm out of ways to draw cards. So we're just going to do it. We're going to play.
You came back.
Nobody gets left behind.
You Came Back. That's one of them. And I know we have Do It Again. I just watched me draw the card. I know we got that. So we got another interaction of this. So again, we want to be ink efficient. Play things that we can. Look at that. I did have another card draw. That's fantastic. Can we find a way? Can we do it? Can we get enough combo pieces? There's a lot in the deck. I just got to get them. Fishbone Quill's not going to do it. Lets me ink another useless card from my hand. Questing one more time. Readying all of our ink. We still have to Do It Again, so we can still get back the You Came Back and do another quest. That only gets me to 14 though, so I need to find even more stuff. But we're gonna play the Do It Again, get the You Came Back, and you know it, we're gonna play it.
You came back.
Nobody gets left behind.
Okay, so we are readied. I believe I'm down to the last card in my hand. And this is where I realized I don't have it. There's nothing. There's no way for me to draw a card. So I'm going to quest a 14 here, ready all my ink. And just to see if I could have gotten something, we're going to play another Mufasa.
The sun will set on my time here, and will rise with you as the new king.
So he comes down. He exerts all of our ink. This is why it's an issue. He exerts all of our ink. You can't just exert your ink and let it float and spend it later. This isn't magic, so there's no way to like save the ink beyond his ability. So we're just doing this bit for fun, letting SouthPaw pick 2 more cards. This is twice now he's let us pick cards, and both times he picked the same card. The first time around he gave us 2 Goofies, and this time around he gave me 2 develop your brains, and we laugh about that a little bit. I show him the cards. Both times he gave me duplicates, so there's nothing I can do. He's gonna go ahead and ready, draw his card, and then he's going to quest for victory.